worries.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hmm. Thank you.
I would love for you to share with us a little bit about what you do and how you created a spiritually minded business.
Sure, yeah. That is a big question.
It is.
Definitely. So, as you mentioned in your introduction, I work on helping women really reconnect to their bodies, their intuition, the wisdom that lives inside of us, and the wisdom that lives in the energies of the earth. And so, kind of moving into flow with those energies instead of fighting against them. When I first made the leap from my career as a midwife, which is what I did for years before becoming a coach and a healer and a mentor, I immediately was drawn to the topic of rest and burnout and how do we escape from this crazy hustle culture and overproductivity and like capitalism in general, the way that it's set up and is really pushing us as humans past our limits and also pushing the earth past her limits. Um, and so it was like a winding road as I started coaching and connecting with women and speaking and finding my path in that to get to the place where I recognize that my business is not going to look the way that perhaps corporate America as a like large entity tells me that it has to look. And the more I lean into that, the more I flourish, really, and the more my people find me and the more easeful business feels.
How can people tap into the flow of the planet and maybe even beyond the planet? But how can we just start with the Earth systems and tap into
Yeah.
that so that we can go with the flow in our businesses?
Yeah, so the first practice that I started implementing for myself and that I encourage everyone, but especially those I work with and those in business to tap into is paying attention to the cyclicality of the seasons. So especially when we think about the way that we're in this kind of constant push for more, faster, sooner, we're as a society in this kind of perpetual spring, summer energy, spring, summer. And we forget and actually kind of deny the value and necessity of autumn and winter. And so, as we start to grow our businesses or build businesses, it's really, really important to incorporate those autumn and winter seasons as well as the spring and summer seasons. And this can align with the outside energetic seasons that are happening, but not always. Our business can have seasons that are different from the seasons that are happening around us, but looking to those seasons for the wisdom that they hold, the themes that they hold. Autumn being a time of turning inward, of letting things fall that are no longer serving. We think about the trees, they're a beautiful metaphor. You know, they shed their leaves every year, and those leaves become compost. Don't rake up the leaves, leave the leaves. Um, the leaves become compost to create more fertile ground so that those seeds beneath the soil have the nutrients they need to bloom again in spring.
Mm,
And so paying attention and finding the lessons and the wisdom that the natural world offers us is
yeah.
that first step.
Oh, goodness. When you were talking about that, I guess the corporate mindset set in for me because I was curious what you would say about autumn because I'm like, well, that's a time of harvest. So shouldn't we be harvesting and, canning and doing
That too.
all of this prep for winter, And so I love that thought too of really just setting up for a period of rest so that it's not
Mhm.
always this constant spring and summer because like we do need these periods of rest. How would how do people who I guess like myself where I'm in a consistent spring and summer kind of mode, How do we let that go and allow ourselves to flow more with allowing ourselves to rest and
Hmm.
experience that?
That is the hardest part. I think that it's always, I know that it's always in small steps and
Mm,
in practicing the little moments, micro moments of rest that we can weave into our day. Really, for me, especially in my own life and working with clients, it's developing the art of noticing and pausing and finding those restful moments in the exhale. It's also really important to build rest into our schedules, especially as entrepreneurs. It's so easy to be on 24 hours a day. You know, we wake up, we are thinking about our business. We work on our business all day. We have dinner. We maybe do a little bit more after dinner. And then we fall asleep and we dream about our businesses so often. And so it's really important to create some really good, strong boundaries for ourselves and carve out rest in our days, in our weeks. The people that I look up to, I'm still in the building stages of growth and still, but I have aspirations to have a whole week off every month
mhm.
of forward facing, right? That forward
Yeah.
facing part of my business. There's still going to be creation and things happening on the side, but carving out space, even if it's only an hour a week or a 10-minute nap in the afternoon, that could just be a lay down or time to get outside and actually making it a non-negotiable priority the same way you make getting your email out to your list and making today's post go out on time and all of that is so important if business is going to be sustainable.
Yeah. I'm curious, was there a time where you felt misaligned in your business where it didn't feel sustainable, and how did you find that realignment?
Yes, I feel like it happens over and over. For anybody
Same, same.
what yeah, for anybody watching or listening who knows anything about human design, I'm a 6'3" projector. And so part of my design is to try the thing, fail, and then tell everybody about it. And so I'm here to talk about and share about and teach about rest and incorporating more of it and living more cyclically. And I have to keep learning how important it is over and over.
Mm,
And so for me, it comes when I recognize that there's too much on my plate. I love to do all of the things. I've been a high achiever my whole life. I was a straight A student. I've got a couple of university degrees. I've always been in that world. And so recognizing when I have taken on too much and giving myself permission to take a pause and a step back and putting other security in place in order to grow. I think one of the things that many entrepreneurs do at the beginning is kind of go gung ho, like, I'm going to do it all, I'm going to do it all myself.
mm,
And so investing early in support, even if it's just a couple hours of assistant work a week, helping create posts or getting emails out, whatever it is that's the hardest part for you to do, would be like my number one lesson learned.
mm.
And then also really tuning in and trusting my intuition around what needs to be done and what I may be doing simply because I've been told I should or to please others.
Yeah, that's really insightful. It's for me, it's been so important to like, am I doing this because it's something that speaks to me? Is this something that I love? Or is
Mhm.
this some kind of people pleasing behavior? Because I know for myself that's it happens. It happens
Mhm.
frequently. I want to see people happy and I want to be accepted. And it
Yeah,
goes into the whole survival brain thing. I need to be part of my tribe. Um,
totally.
yeah. So it's so important though to really tap into like that deep self. And like if we're entrepreneurs, we have this great power to shape our businesses, shape our lives, shape our freedom.
Mhm.
And are we doing this for ourselves or are we doing it for someone else? Because we get to choose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's such an interesting dance that we do
Yeah.
um with our own expectations, the society's expectations, are our expectations our own, or are they society's? And like teasing that out, I think tuning into intuition is even if it's our work to help others tune into theirs, I think tuning into our own is still, for me anyways, something that I'm continuing to practice. And then the next step of actually trusting it when I hear it. I have
Mm.
made a few decisions in business. Again, I think this is my like must do it and fail to learn the lesson. But I've made a few decisions where I did tune in. I did use the tools that I have to make an intuitive decision. And then my rational brain was like, logically, this makes sense. So we're going to do it, even though your intuition is telling you not to.
Mm.
And both times that I've made that decision from logic instead of from heart, there was two big times I really regretted it.
Mm.
Investments that really didn't need to happen, and probably caused more harm than good in the long run.
Yeah. And what's one way that you tap into intuition?
So The there's so many, but for me, my intuition is quick. It's like a fairly immediate gut sensation. But one of the tools that I really love using, and I actually have a little intuitive decision making for business mini course that I put together.
Cool.
One of the tools that I use is writing, if I've got decisions to make, writing the different decisions on pieces of paper, putting them face down on the floor, mixing them all around so I don't know which is which, and then stepping forward onto one and seeing what happens in my body, and then stepping off,
Mm.
and then stepping forward onto another and stepping off, and seeing what happens in my body, what feels good, what doesn't, and then turning over those cards. And
Mm.
it's probably my favorite because there's no knowing what's under there. Whereas sometimes with a pendulum, if you're really attached to the outcome,
Yeah.
you might sway it. But this way, even if you're attached to the outcome, you don't know what's what. So that's one of my favorite tools.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, the only one that I've learned is like the coin toss, where if you need a decision, toss the coin. And then if the coin comes up with an answer that I don't like,
Then you know.
then I'll be like, oh, well, then I guess that I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I've used that one too. I'll often say, like use your tool, use your pendulum. And if the pendulum tells you an answer and you're like, I didn't want that one, then that's a clear answer for you too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, you work spirituality into your business, and I'm curious how you see spirituality and business as interwoven.
Yeah. This is one that's been really a learning experience, I think, because so much of the business advice out there, so many of the communities that support business and decision making, they really, even if they consider themselves spiritual, it's not intertwined the same way. Again, like there's this rising sense of spirituality in society, I believe. There's that kind of rising energies of more connection to each other, to spirit. And it's still hard to bring that side of things into the physical realities, the very kind of masculine energies of running a business day to
Mm.
day. And for me, it comes out in a lot in my actual work, the way that I work, but also in my writing. I think when I'm feeling most aligned and magnetic and in my on my path is when I'm able to write from that place of spirituality and trust. And
Mm.
when I'm able to kind of lean back a little bit to receive what's coming to me in business instead of that kind of constant grasping, oh my gosh, where's my next client coming from? Oh my gosh, where's my next follower coming from? What do I have to do? And kind of shifting that question to who do I have to be? And
Mm.
how do I want to be and feel? And I don't know if that's a clear answer, but that's that's what's coming through.
I think that's pretty clear. I know that for me, I get in that feeling of where's that next client, where's that next follower, that kind of feeling, and really coming back into that question of, well, how am I being of service? I
Hmm.
mean, I see service as such a high level um of spirituality, you know, showing
Hmm.
up for one another. And I know, like, as coaches or as people who work in service, we have offers. We are able to help people in so many different ways that are don't always have a charge, you know, like
Yeah.
this right now, we're showing up for free, giving
Hmm.
value and helping. And I see that as in its own spiritual light. The
Hmm.
way that we're able to connect all over the world now is pretty exciting too. We can help people
Yeah.
all over the world. Um, Seeing that, just being able to interweave that into business, it's can be such a difficult reframe for people because, like you were saying, business does have this masculine energy to it, but this do.
Hmm.
I mean, like when you were saying that, I was like, I swear if I see one more tracking sheet.
Right. Oh, and just like in the world, we do need both. And I think that
Yeah.
the struggle is that we've been so immersed in those masculine energies for so long, with the balance not being there, that it's hard to trust the more feminine side as we
Mm,
bring it in and weave it in. It doesn't feel as safe perhaps to our nervous systems because we're not used to it. Just like
mm.
rest doesn't feel safe for many people's nervous system.
Yeah, yeah, I know for me, rest can be really challenging. And I'm somebody who wakes up like with a lot of go, like there's all the
Hmm.
things that need to get done. Like it's time to get up and go do them. And I mean, even if I'm up till 1 a.m. just playing with my phone, making posts, it's like
Hmm.
Um, I have a friend who lost a relationship because her boyfriend was like, Do you have an off switch? Does this turn off?" And she didn't,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
It's really important for us to, see where we are with our businesses and where that flow is that you're talking about, because I know for myself, rest can be really challenging.
Yeah, yeah, and it makes sense that it is for so many reasons, not just because we've been raised to believe that our productivity is where our value lies, and that societally that affects men and women, but also as entrepreneurs, it all is on us. There's
Yeah.
no sick days, there's no boss saying like, here are your specs, your KPIs or whatever. I've never been in corporate anything.
I know.
I
I
don't
was
know,
like,
I don't know
okay.
what those terminologies are, but there is that kind of like that fear that if we don't keep doing all of the time, that it'll all come crumbling down. And
Mm,
yet we can look for the proof out there of the spiritual entrepreneurs who are doing it in a more feminine way, who are successful and thriving even with the rest and the ease built in.
yeah. I'm curious, what inspires you in your work?
Oh, I I sign off my emails with rested women will change the world.
Mm,
And I have been for as long as I can remember a humanitarian and an environmentalist to my core, and so for me, it is this sense of a deep, deep knowing that we need to change what we're doing,
mm.
like now. And so I'm inspired to help. And I think that there's ripples, right? If I can help even a dozen more women find more rest, say no to hustle, recognize the magic and the abundance in their lives so that they don't need to fill that void with consuming
Mm,
things or, whatever it is that we're consuming at all times, and create more connection and community and compassion for each other in the world. I know that just ripples out because women, we are still the hub of the family most often, of communities, and the way that we're able to show up impacts everybody around us.
Mm.
Hmm.
So in many ways, rest really inspires us into our greatest work.
Yeah, yeah. And it creates room for dreaming and
Mm.
creativity and imagining a different way.
Yeah. I wonder, like, what is a question or a mindset reframe we could create if we're feeling that fear of rest?
Hmm. I think that one of the big things that comes up for many when they feel a fear of rest is not just that sense that, like, if they don't hold all the balls, keep all the balls in the air, everything's going to come crashing down and then I'll never be able to pick them back up, which is just not true. You can always pick them back up. But there's also a fear of the emotions that might come with it.
Mhm.
And so I find that the analogy, I always come back to labor, having been a midwife for many years, labor metaphors work really well. But much like contractions, emotions, the physiological experience of an emotion in our body only lasts for 60 seconds. It comes and then it goes, or no, sorry, it's 90 seconds, up to 90 seconds. And the mental part of it may still be there and it can come back in waves, but that full body physical experience of an emotion, it can't last more than about 90 seconds, which is the same as labor or contractions at the peak of labor. And so that fear of being perhaps swept away by whatever is hiding beneath the busy, the overwhelm, if it's grief, if it's anger, if it's sorrow, um, knowing that it won't sweep, it won't take you away forever, knowing that it can come, but it will go, that it's safe to let yourself be in that space and
Mhm.
release those emotions that might come up as we rest. And that it's as much as I'm like, I'm anti resting to be more productive, the ability to feel those feelings, to let them go, to give ourselves the rest we need, it will create more space and ease when we do go back to producing or being productive.
Mm. And I just have to, I love unconscious minds. And so sometimes the first thing that pops up, I have to say it.
Mhm.
And so the first thing that popped into my head was, well, if I'm not being productive, if I'm not resting to be productive, then what?
Oh, you are resting because it is your birthright.
Okay. I can get
Yeah.
behind that.
Yeah. It is really such a modern like invention, if you will, that we have to be producing and productive.
Mm.
Even if we look all the way back, we think about, lives were hard at various points of human history, at a lot of human history. But if we go back all the way to hunter-gatherer societies, they estimate that they were actively working to stay alive and cook food, etc., for about 4 hours a day.
Mm.
That's it. And there was, and we have all of these things that help make our lives more easy now. We have a dishwasher to do the dishes, and we can go to the grocery store to buy our groceries instead of hunting them down. And yet, we're working way more hours every day than our bodies were ever designed to do.
Mm.
Yeah. I
That
don't know
is
where I was going with
insight.
that, but
Yeah,
it
I had
is
no
just,
idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's there's so many great books about rest. Tricia Hersey is my favorite, perhaps. She's well known for the nap ministry. That's her Instagram handle. And she wrote the book called Rest is Resistance. And it's a
Mm.
really, really great kind of intro into why rest is our birthright, why it is natural for us, why we need more of it, why it's so important.
Yeah,
Yeah, I encourage everybody and anybody to check that one out.
I love that. And I'm curious, um, Do you have a way that people can get in touch with you and learn more about what you do?
Yeah, I am findable on Instagram. I'm at I am Eileen March, and I have a website, which is myluminouslife.ca, and a fun little quiz. My favorite way to connect with my people is through email because I love to write, and so taking the quiz, which are you, which will tell you if you were a witch, which witch you would be. And depending on what the answer is, the quiz gives you an option for a type of rest practice to integrate that would be especially nourishing for you. And that'll get you onto my email list as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
And is there anything you'd like to add to this conversation?
If you're feeling the call for more rest, if you feel when you hear me talk about rest, you go, "Oh God, I want that, but I have no idea how." Start with an exhale. Start with an exhale and let that be enough for this moment.
Mm.
And then maybe tomorrow you can try 3 exhales. Baby steps always. And come December, I'll be running a 21-day free rest event called Restmas for the third time running. So if you feel like you need a little bit of support in rest, that's coming up too.
Thank you so much. That sounds really fun.
I love
Restless.
it. Restmas. It is so needed with the craze of Christmas season, holiday season. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, so I'm really excited. I'm kind of leveling it up this year with some collective rest practices.
I love that so much. And I'm so grateful that you came and showed up for us today. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so delighted that we have been connected.
Me too. And I'm Julia Jett with Eileen March on the Spiritually Minded Entrepreneurs Summit. And I am grateful that all of you showed up. Have a beautiful day.